Time now 5:06. Russia will pull out of the International Space Station program in 2024. Now at 5 and only on Way 31, a Huntsville space legend weighs in on what the surprise move means for the future of the ISS and how this move by the Russians could factor into future space programs. Our Matt Kroschel checking in live with us now from the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. Matt, there's a lot going on right now in terms of space, but how are we going to pay for this if and when Russia pulls out of the International Space Station?
Great questions, Marie. We're inside this mock-up of the Payload Ops Center that's over at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center here in Huntsville. Of course, Huntsville has a very important role to play in the ISS and the history behind this operation, this major program over the years. And look, I talked to experts that say we're going to be okay even if Russia does pull out of the ISS. But because it's not just the ISS program, but also all the other things that's happening right now with NASA and in the decades to come, funding all of those, well, that's a different story.
We are in a new golden age of spaceflight.
Former NASA engineer Homer Hickam has a pulse on the space program and a history of helping the dream of an International Space Station become a reality. He's excited about where NASA is headed with the Artemis missions, returning Americans to the moon and beyond, and what the future without Russia looks like on the ISS.
I believe that what is ahead of us is going to be really, really exciting.
While NASA's game plan is robust, Hickam sees a roadblock made only more complex with Russia's announcement it is pulling out of the ISS.
There is a funding problem, however, coming up.
The billions of dollars needed for these programs and figuring out how to build a new space station once the ISS is decommissioned in 2030, the biggest challenge ahead for the U.S. space program.
If we add in the space station budget to that, I don't think there's room. Congress is really going to have to step up here, and also the president and vice president, the National Space Council, are going to have to step up to support all of our present agreements to operate the International Space Station to 2030, plus the Artemis program and everything else.
That big question remains. Hickam does see private investment in space becoming even more critical to keep funding for these major projects streaming in.
We're going to have private companies step up and start joining in on the International Space Station. They'll take the place of the Russians pretty quick, I think. They may even buy the Russians out and start using their module.
Live data pouring in here to the Ops Center, the same information that NASA across the country and partners around the world are watching as the ISS continues operations high above our planet. Now, Hickam tells me that this really was not a huge surprise to a lot of folks at NASA. Now, Russia signaling that they are going to pull out. They do say that over the last several months, as this invasion in Ukraine has continued, there's been a lot of backlash from the international community that Russia has really started to pull back and fight back when it comes to their operations in space. For now, reporting live in Huntsville, Matt Kroschel, Way 31 News.